part of the reason they did that is because it's on the porch and the porch isn't heated, they can have access to the back of it. And the same with the garage. If they need to get at them, they can get access to the back of the panels. And they had the opposite of a freezing event actually happen on these panels. They had an overheated end. So, yeah, in response to something I asked them to do. So, I felt just a little bit guilty. We do have a year's worth of monitoring on this one. And one of the things that we've discovered on this is there's some significant limitations to red screen, polysun, whatever PV system, modeling system you want to look at. Mainly, I think because there's a couple of things happening. They've got 2 inverters and they've got 4 surfaces where the PV sits. Go back one more. So they've got PV on the porch roof, which is a different angle than this roof. And then they've got a little bit on the east side of this dormer, and they've got some in the garage. So there's 4 different surfaces and angles.
They don't have the west side of the dormer?
No. No. And two inverters. So depending on how they're wired together, there can be interactions between the shading, the partial shading on some of these panels and these panels, and then this angle is going to be different, so they're going to have a slightly higher voltage or current or whatever. And then same with this one, it's going to change differently than the rest. So, not that there's anything wrong with that necessarily, but the simulating software just doesn't handle that. It just can't. Nothing that I've seen can do that. Now, I don't have really complicated software. I don't know what you guys use for PV simulation, or if you use anything.
I've used red screen. If somebody, everybody thinks that, well, either they know they have shading and they just want the system anyway, or else they think they have no shading. And
even we found even like a telegraph wire, just the smallest wire, will cut out, you know, maybe 90% of the power for the whole array if it's centralized inverter.
It's in the right place. Yeah, yeah, and that's the issue here, right? Is it depending on how these things are configured and where the sun happens to be and so on, it can really, really affect PV production. And we've seen it. We don't understand it, but we've seen it. The other thing that's happened in this house is that the homeowner, the guy who bought it, was one of the guys who helped design it. So he's very invested in making sure it works. So it was a very well behaved house. Like it just, it followed the curve just as you'd expect it to. The appliance consumption was the same all the way through, and the hot water consumption was constant, and so on. So it was nice that way. But the PV production was just nowhere near what it should have been, and neither was the solar thermal. This is one that's under construction in Calgary. This is an owner-built house again, so it will be. I suspect it will be a fairly well-behaved one as well. He's building this house because he wants to. He's actually developing the community. So there's about was it 22 lots, I think, in this community, and basically in order to come into this community, you have to buy into a certain philosophy, which is sort of like this.
I guess really is encouraging it.
Not discouraging it.
Encouraging it, but not enforcing it.
Yeah, I think he's actually to the point of enforcement on this one. I'm not entirely sure, But, you know, at the very least, I believe you have to be, you know, Energy Star level of house, which is not that much, I guess, but. So then, this is kind of the opposite. This house is at Kamloops, and it is a lottery house.
For the YMCA.
Yeah.
We saw it last year.
Yeah, did you go through it?
No, it was closed when we were there, just a
Oh,
walk
okay.
around.
Yeah, that, gorgeous house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, and it's even nicer inside than it's outside.
Mm.
Yeah, but, you know, the people who move into this are going to be average Joes, right? Well, yeah, pretty much. You know, that they happen to be lucky enough to win the lottery. And they are actually going to move in. Their intent is to move in. A lot of people, when they get these houses, they just put them up for sale. But their intent is actually to move in. So that'll be a nice test of this house, is to see what are the occupant effects. Somewhat like the Ecoterra one. Only this one we're you know, we'll have a little better idea how to monitor it and figure out where those things kind of what the effects are. This one's also a bit odd. Most of the houses, the equilibrium houses, are relatively small houses. But because this one was in a golf course community, it was actually architecturally constrained to be 3,000 square feet. So they had an extra challenge here because they had to build a low footprint house that had a huge footprint. Some of the cool things in this house, it's actually an ICF house, and the ICFs are not symmetrical. The outside surface is much thicker than the inside, so that moves the thermal mass a little bit closer to the inside. The Three Rivers University is actually involved in this, and they're doing some studies on trying to figure out what's happening with thermal mass here. So they've got, in 4 places in the house, they've got a thermocouple here, thermocouple here, thermocouple here, and a thermocouple here. So they're trying to measure basically the effect of the insulation on the thermal mass. And I was speculating with them that, you know, in order to get your thermal mass actually in contact with the inside of the house, you could actually build this form with a piece of, you know, some sort of a cement board on the inside surface, so that then you've got an insulated concrete form, but there's no insulation on the inside, so that you actually have a thermal mass in contact with the house. So, curious to see what happens with their research to see if there would actually be any benefit to that. Because what they're trying to do is figure out, you know, what happens to that thermal mass when it's located on, you know, in the middle of insulation. And then the bottom left-hand side of that picture is the balcony, and the balcony railing on this house is beam mulches. So they are obviously not mounted at a perfect angle, but they do serve a second purpose. So somewhat like the awnings on the Mill Creek house, they have a second purpose.
Hopefully they have dedicated inverters that will run into the same problem when they...
I believe they do. I know that there is 2 inverters, but I don't know how they're wired out. Again, the problem is not really that the shading issue. The problem is trying to understand it. I mean, it's still generating electricity. It's just that it's difficult to understand how much it's going to generate, how much you're expecting it to. So it's not that it's wrong. It's just to not quite understand all the implications. So this is kind of a quick summary of what happened with equilibrium houses. They all have grid connected PV. That's the only way you can do net zero with current technologies is with PV. That's the only, you know, locally.
I guess if you're on an acreage, you could do wind.
Yes, you could if you're on an acreage. Yeah. All but one have solar thermal.